Hello, everybody. How you doing? So as Monica said, we're going to talk about Yello's journey to modern. And it's a journey, so we're still on that journey. So a little bit about Yello, for those of you who do not know, no, we're not the color yellow, we're YELLO. And so we're essentially a talent acquisition software that companies use to help them find early career talent. So people in college, just graduating college, 1 or 2 years outside of college, that's what clients use our software for. As you can see, we have some of the major players when it comes to different industries that utilize our software to find talent. So the journey. As you see from this road here, the best laid plans don't always go as predicted. Whoever laid the lines out thought they did it correctly, but as you can see, there's a little curve there. So for us, there was a little curve in our journey in the sense that we knew where we wanted to go, but how exactly were we going to get there? How were we going to be able to accomplish modernizing our data platform? And so for us, the journey is essentially like every other company, right? You got the extraction or the ingestion, the loading, transformation, preparing, and visualization. Now we had all of this stuff in place already. We had these things in place, but it was very cumbersome. It was very challenging for my team. I have a very lean team, and there was a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of fires that the team had to put out. And so how can we get to the point to where the team is having the satisfaction when it comes to the jobs that they were doing? And so one of the things we started was, okay, we have to identify what is the current state and where we're looking to get to. The current state, we didn't have much standardization at all. I mean, the way that we handle our data, we have about 300 or so, probably more than that, give or take, clients, and we're a multi-tenant environment. So each client has their own instance, if you will. So you can have one client that has a field called major, and you can have another client, same data, but they can call it curriculum. And so we have to manage that. So we don't right now have the ability to standardize that. We have an insta-build ad hoc process, are very unstable. So we had a process to where I say we were stuck in the 90s, if you will. We still had a snapshot process. And so we had 4 times a month, our data would refresh from an ad hoc standpoint. And then with that ad hoc standpoint, we had multiple errors. The data was not fresh because it's only being refreshed 4 times a month. The code was outdated, very cumbersome. Then you had the inability to provide true insights to our product and to our customer areas. And we didn't have that single source of truth, which is so important. And of course, because you have all those things above, you don't have a self-service capability. So this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to have data standardization, near real-time data. We wanted that analytical layer, that semantic layer, if you will, to help tell the story of the data. We wanted a combined data warehouse because not only do we have the Yello platform, we also have a platform called Way Up or Yello Sourcing that's more candidate focused. And we wanted that single source of truth. And then we wanted self-serve capabilities. We're trying to get to the point to where the team is not busy generating reports for people, but actually our product and customer success organizations can actually self-serve and answer their own questions. And then we wanted to have less reliance on AWS services. It's very expensive, as most of you in the audience know, AWS. And we're not to the point to where we can just waste money on services that are not helping us in the long run. So that was a challenge. Like I said, we're multi-tenant. We got one production database per client. We got separate ETL pipelines per client. We got separate analytics databases per client. And then we have one Looker group per client. Looker is the data visualization tool that we're using. And as you can see, this equates to hundreds of sources, pipelines, and databases overall. When you start expanding that out, it gets really big for a team that's very lean. So how can we solve that? And this was our legacy data warehouse architecture. As you can see, your typical AWS environment, you got our private cloud, that's in Postgres, that's each database for our client, then that's replicated, VMS, S3 buckets, and then we had glue, step functions, we had a lot of different things, lambdas, and those things would fail a lot. And so we had to make sure we stayed on top of that. And here's some additional issues that we faced. It was difficult to find the upstream data issues. We had a lot of silent failures, if you will. So spend a lot of time trying to investigate that, trying to understand what the issue really is. Very inflexible, very fragile. If something breaks, it's hard to keep track of that. It was like scaffold together, and it wasn't as sturdy as we wanted it to. Very slow compute for ETL and dashboards. Single purpose. We were only able to do a certain amount of dashboards. We weren't able to really provide insights and analytics that our customer base is looking for. We weren't able to scale up. Tough to scale up. And then we had inconsistent metrics across platforms. And if you see that statement down at the bottom, it took about 8 hours per day for that to run. So that's pretty much half the day. And so here's the reporting structure that we had for our ad hoc or custom reporting. You had different scripts. You had the snapshot that I talked about before that happened 4 times a month on the 1st, 8th, 15th, and the 22nd. And as you can know, clients were not happy about that because they wanted their data as fresh as it could possibly be. So we had to wait until certain times to run reports. We had to wait till after it runs. And it's not like it runs for an hour on the 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd. It runs for multiple hours. And then it breaks, you gotta run it again. So these are some of the challenges that we face with our legacy reporting structure. And here's some additional things. No, we didn't have a data model, standardization, no semantic layer. The data was inconsistent, the 4 times a month that I talked about before. It took a high level of customization. You have to really know what you're looking for to really execute on the data. No path to self-service. And then you couldn't observe when you had the silent failures. Now keep in mind, this is the ad hoc reporting side. This took 20 hours. So you got the 8 hours for your data warehouse, and you got the 20 hours for reporting. So as you can see, this takes a long time. Most of the time is spent fixing errors instead of really providing insights and analytics. So what did we decide? That's how we landed with Starburst. We evaluated a number of tools, but Starburst was the one that provided us the ability to have that computational layer that was cost effective. Cost was very important for us. We avoided the vendor lock, so we're not locked into a particular vendor. It allowed us to connect to our current S3 data lake. Very versatile. We're able to perform the ETL jobs and do the reporting and insights that we want to do, that our product team and our customer success team wanted us to really focus on. We're able to cluster the data, because in addition to making sure we have each individual instance for our clients, our internal reporting wants to be able to look across clients to understand how things are looking from a talent acquisition, from a candidate and requisition standpoint. And then it enabled the team to better facilitate telling the candidate and client story. And this is critical because for us, one of the things we want to do is get from the idea that we just report generators. I mean, some of you probably run into this in the past to where the data services team was seen mostly as just people that run reports. So we're trying to get from that mentality, that state, and get to a place where people understand that not only can we give you data, but we give you the story behind the data. We tell you why things look a certain way. So that's the next step that we're trying to get to. And so what we called our internal tool was Talent Vault. And so this is our platform from within. So as you can see, like Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, this was our Mission Impossible. And so it helped us fulfill the mission to improve the health and accessibility of our data. It powers our client dashboards and Looker, as I mentioned before. So Looker is our data visualization tool. And it's our source for our client custom reporting. Because what we're trying to do from a custom reporting standpoint is to actually start to monetize the data services area. So go from being that cost center to be more of a revenue generator. So that's what the Talent Vault platform enables us to do. And so at a high level, this is our new architecture. This is what we're working with now. So as you can see, we have the RDS down there, the Postgres databases for each individual client. Then we got the CDC, and then we have the data lake right there, the S3 buckets, and then Starburst is right there, that layer that's so important to us for our computational layer and pushes the data. And we still have the data separated, right? Because we have to keep the data separated for the clients. Because it comes in separated, we have to push it out separate to those iceberg tables. And in addition to that, we're utilizing DBT to help with transformation. And then in front of that, we have Daxter. Daxter is our orchestration tool. So that builds, that schedules, And that does for the legacy data warehouse and reporting. And so it took a lot of time and effort from a number of members of the team to really come up with this structure because, like I said before, we are a smaller company, so cost was just as important as in efficiency. And so we had to make sure we found open source tools in conjunction with AWS and dbt and Starburst and Looker and those things to make sure we have that full picture of what we're looking to do from our architecture standpoint. And what this does, this gives us faster access to client data. It helps improve the dashboard rendering. In the future, it will enable us to add more in terms of our dashboards, make sure we have those near real-time metrics. It helps us when it comes to speed to insight, which is critical. Because at this moment, we necessarily didn't have the true speed to insight that we want. And speed to insight is crucial because for the people that we're working with, if a client wants to know how well, say for instance, they had an event here in about a month or so, and they had about 1,000 candidates show up. They want to know in the future how many of those candidates applied for their position and how many of those candidates made it through the workflow process. Where did they fall off? What were some things that were common with people that made it through the process? And so if we're telling clients, we can only get this to you certain points of the month, then that kind of defeats the purpose of providing that speed to insight. So that's why it's so critical that this infrastructure that we now have enables that for us. In addition, we go a little bit further here. You got Daxter and DBT, and then you got the cubes, and you got Starburst, and then we got, so we broke it down even further. We got our ODS layer now, which is critical because before we didn't necessarily have an ODS, data warehouse, and reporting layer all in one. So this is also another facet that Starburst and our Talent Vault architecture allows us to do. Now we have that single source of truth that we're looking to build out. This open table format. I mean, we're able to connect with different downstream systems. It's not closed in, which is good for us. We got the federator for individual client databases. You share data sources, which is cool for us. On-demand clusters for Starburst. I mean, it's really great that we're able, one of the things that we've been able to do is that now we're able to find errors faster. If there's an error, we're able to get more robust reporting. We're able to have streamline. Now we know when things are working, when things are not. It just opens up the door for us and really advances us down that path to be more modern. And so this is our reporting area. Remember how I spoke before about how it would take us about 20 hours to do just the ad hoc reports. So we have the Iceberg, the data warehouse, which feeds through Starburst, our custom and ad hoc reports. And think about this. So we had to take the current reports that were Postgres and migrate those to Trino to Starburst. And that's taken a lot of work as well. But once we get that there, then we're able to now, by utilizing Daxter to help orchestrate to run the jobs. And then we're also going to have, well, in each individual client. So when a client logs into Yello, they have their own instance, they have their own logos and things that they see. So we're building out what we call a report center. So now, whenever clients log into their instance, instead of receiving an email from us, now they'll have their reports listed there. So that's increasing the self-service capabilities that clients are going to have, which is important. One of the things they've been asking us for, in addition to having data more frequently. So now instead of the wait 4 times a month, they essentially can have data as of the next day. And just to give you a number about the reports that we have over 600 something reports that we currently have in place. Like I said, we have over 300 clients, right? So let's think if a client has 2 reports, each client has 2 reports, that's over 600 reports in Postgres format that we're having to convert to Trino. And so another thing is we're moving those outdated complex reports from the ODS layer to our new data warehousing layer, which is key. And scalability is important. Now we're able to scale up and down whenever we need to. It takes the complexity out of the report building because instead of having a report take X amount of time to build because of the way things were built before, now we have multiple people who are able to come in and build reports. Flexibility of reporting. Now, like I said before, we're able to provide reports more near real time to people if they need it. And then the observability for failures, for runtime, and validation. Validation is key. One of the challenges we had was that sometimes we would send out reports and clients would come to us and say, hey, this report is blank. This report is missing this field. Now, instead of clients telling us if a report fails or if something's wrong, we're able to see that first ourselves, catch it ourselves, and then correct it. So it just increases the trust that clients have with us when it comes to our data provision. And it also increases the effectiveness that we have, because once we improve the data accuracy, then it also improves the relationships with our clients. So that's key to us. So here are some of the wins that we have because of Talent Vault. It reduces our tech debt, the outages and the complexity. Much faster time to, DBT has been critical for us in terms of the transformations with Starburst. It helps us improve our scalability, and we can go deeper. And the important thing is that I keep talking about scalability because our clients, the way our software works, our clients have a lot of autonomy in terms of how they utilize our Yello platform, our Yello software. So they can add fields, they can rename fields, they can do things like that on their own without telling us. But we now have the ability with our schema to actually absorb that and not have to necessarily have an issue in terms of, clients adjusting things when they don't tell us. It produces more consistent data. It allows for flexible and lower latency in our reporting, and also opens the doors for us for new things down the road, like machine learning, data science, and those insights. And that's it. So any questions from anybody?
Do we have any questions? Anything? Okay, perfect.
So just out of curiosity, there's always pushback from people who don't want to get on board. So how did you overcome the people challenges of making the switch?
That's a great question. So I think for us, there was a lot of hesitancy from people that have been there a long time because they're used to doing things a certain way. And so we had to provide, it took a lot of politicking, a lot of putting presentations and stories and really show the value that the Talent Vault environment will provide from, not just from our standpoint, because we know the value. I mean, my team experiences the issues every day, but from their value, how they would get data more real time. Our clients will see, because it's so important for us in order to make a client, I say sticky, to stick with our platform, we have to make sure they stay in the platform and that they value what we're providing to them. So giving them more near real-time access, eventually giving them the ability to self-serve was critical to changing the mentality. And that's why I say it's a journey to modern, because we're really journeying the whole organization to like a modern environment.
Yeah, I have a question. So what are the features in Starburst that differentiate it from open source Trino that you appreciate or rely on?
It's a great question. So when we evaluated Starburst, one of the things we looked at was we compared it against, of course, well, Starburst is easy for us to manage. I mean, given the scope of my team, we could have done the open source Trino. We looked at Snowflake, for example. We did a number of different competitors of Starburst. But the combination of ease to manage, ease to create things, as well as the timeliness is why we decided to go through Starburst route.